Welcome to the show, everyone. In this episode, we talk about boundaries and balance and how to handle being in sales and, trying to have a life outside of it. And the thing you're going to hear is that we all view it very, very differently. So listen to how we break that down and some of the levers that are important to think about when you're figuring out how accessible you're going to be. If you know anyone else who's struggling in sales, please share this with them. And if you have a question for the show, reach out. Everything is at Sales Throwdown on social media. And I hope you enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. In the D corner, we have Clint the Cleaver Bigelow. In the I corner, we have Al the Gambler Daniel. In the S corner, we have Nan the Promoter Foreman. In the C corner, we have John Small Mountain Hill. Let's get ready to throw down!
Yeah, we know about your shoulder situation.
There we go.
It's the elbow.
Yeah.
But the shoulder's connected to the
Oh,
part of
my
it.
God. All right. Welcome to the
shit.
show.
Oh, my bad.
Always is.
We're just going to leave this in here so that way everyone who is listening still understands that this is how every episode starts. Then we have to pause and restart.
Running with scissors. And I've probably said that before.
Yeah,
Masking
maybe
tape
so.
is all we need.
So today we're talking about essentially how do you prioritize your time as a salesperson? Because depending upon your role, depending upon how that's set up, you might have to do some maintenance, some other things that are not directly related to going out and getting yeses and nos. And how do you divide that time, and how do you keep it from taking over your schedule?
And how do you keep that personal balance in your world with your family,
true, yeah,
your kids, what you like to do, and some of the rigors of just being in the sales side of things, and some of the, wacky schedules, and just
life, basically.
Yeah, having to be other places after hours.
I mean, I used to think that car salesmen had it the worst, right? Because you're there.
They do.
Every time the lot is open. And then I went to work for Al. And he's like, okay, cool. Show up Monday morning at 4:30 a.m. I was like, I'm sorry, what?
I cannot tell you how many 3 o'clock, 3:30 driving in the freezing cold from Arlington to downtown Dallas. And I would just crank up the music, turn the heat on, drinking tea, just like, please, I will stay awake. And I mean, it's unbelievable.
Or you're still
It's
drunk
rough.
sometimes.
Well, not me, but yeah.
That's happened to me.
We've been down that road. So I guess, to push this a little bit further, is that depending on what type of sales role you have, you also have an outside life to that role, right? And how do you refill the tank? How do you take what you earn or the success that you've had, or sometimes the failure you've had, and take it away from work and survive both of those events?
I mean, when you're winning, truly winning, like on the scale, whatever your scale is, when you're winning in that environment, home life is probably pretty good, right? You've got everything that you wanted. You have explanation to why you're doing what you do, to your, let's say spouse or kids, that, hey, I have to take this phone call because this is why we have what we have, because I take these phone calls. What happens when you're losing? Can you still take the same phone calls, right? Is it still justified?
I have to stop you for a second, only to interject that you can be winning everything, and if you're on a family vacation and you're on the phone most of the time.
No, I agree.
What
I'm saying.
You faced that, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And John,
I think what I'm getting there is that a spouse or even kids understand that the reason we get to do all these things because Daddy takes those phone calls because it's winning, right? But what happens when you're losing and it's all at home?
I think it's even more important.
I was going to say, and your kids don't get to do those things because, well, Daddy's always working, right? And you got to go take those same phone calls because you're trying. So there's a weird flip there, right?
Well, so back in August for my daughter's birthday, all she wanted was to go see the ocean. So we decided to go down to Galveston. And I kind of had it in my head that I wasn't going to change anything. I was going to still have my normal calls, my normal meetings. Everything was going to be normal. I just wasn't going to be home. And I was miserable on both sides because I wasn't feeling as productive when I was on my calls and doing my work. And then I was like stressed out about that, so I wasn't really fully present for the family either. So maintaining that balance and setting expectations around it, with your family and stuff, because my daughter was starting to get pretty frustrated because she's like, hey, how come we're at the beach and you're not? I'm like, well, I just got to do this 2 more phone calls and then I'll be down there.
So as a metrics guy, John, yourself, like, isn't it easier to say, and maybe not, but okay, I make 100 phone calls a week and this is how I close my deals and this is how I'm successful. So the week prior, the 3 weeks prior, you add some phone calls in, or you add those tasks in to make up for that lost week, to say, okay, I've done all that I can do and it's made up for. The caveat to that is that, man, if I had time to make those extra phone calls prior, why aren't I doing that every day?
Well,
isn't that a trap that you get put into?
Can
right?
I throw something out though? I mean, I can appreciate where you're going. My problem, or a problem I see with a lot of salespeople, is how do you leave your accounts while you're out of town? Existing business going forward. Not that you got to be grinding out phone calls while you're out on vacation.
Yeah, but what happens when the emergency comes up?
What emergency are you referring to?
Any emergency.
Oh, you mean
from
business-wise,
yeah.
not from the family side?
No,
because I'm thinking kids going to the hospital. Okay. My point is there's the problem. I'm not trying to gain new business when I'm out of town. I'm just trying to make sure my shit doesn't blow up because I'm out of town, right?
Well, and you're in a very poachable realm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in a realm where you can't make too many mistakes. You can't leave something undone. Yeah. So poachable, maybe not so much because I leave town. If I'm not there to fix it, or I don't get the phone call to make some adjustments, there's where the problem is.
Do you set up upfront expectations to your family, to your customers, or what do you do?
A little bit of both. I don't always tell them I'm going out of town, because there's the weakness. There's the poach, right?
Yeah.
If I'm gone.
That's true.
So I don't tell people I leave town. Man actually has a story about that.
I'm not sure what you're referring to, but if you'll come back to that, I think it's really important to prioritize, figure out what's literally write down what are your top 5 things in the order of priority. And when you first start in sales, you're not going to be the person that can be the leader to appoint other people to be there, step in, and if they call that person, and if they can't handle it, they call you. And if you get a call from your people that you're leading, you have to take that call. But I think the most unwise thing any of us or anyone can do is to put our business ahead of our family. And I know that sounds super but I don't care if you're making a gazillion dollars. I'm not sure what that looks like on paper, but if you're making a ton of money, if you failed your family, then you've screwed up. So your family has to be the priority. And that doesn't take away from, I see a couple of people online here railing because they're like, what?
You just saw somebody.
Some body action going.
Some body stance shifting.
I think it's really important, though. Okay, so if your son's calling because he needs the keys to the car, or whatever, I don't know. There's all kinds of scenarios that aren't that important. But if you have something vitally important, you have to address that. But I think in sales, if you're not in leadership and you're leading people so you can take care of your top priorities, then you've failed. I think it's really important to, again, what we've talked about numerous times, you have to plan, you have to think about what your leadership role is.
So I read, and I can't cite the actual publication or where I got this information from, but they did some studies concerning quantity versus quality of time that you spend with your children and your family. Right? And it always came back to quality, not quantity. Right?
Yeah.
Because there are
plenty
of families that are in the same house that don't talk to each other, that barely. They got 5 iPhones and 5 iPads, right? And I the article made sense, because if you say to me, write down your 5 top things. Man, I love my kids, but my priority is work, because from there I get everything else that I have.
Well, I think that comes down to right? I think we've all heard about Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Mm-hmm.
right? And at those lowest levels, you're just all your mental bandwidth is spent on, can I keep food on the table and the roof over my head?
Agreed.
You can't think about anything else. You can't think about, hey, is the time that I'm spending with my kid quality time, or is it just time for the sake of time, right? You're not thinking on that level. And so for a lot of salespeople out there, they're struggling, or they might be new, or any other number of reasons. If you're at that level, you don't even realize that you're not spending time with the family, that you're not prioritizing them, because the only thing you can prioritize is the thing that keeps food on the table and the roof over your head. So
True. So how do you get past that? Loving your kids more, does that get you past that?
no,
Or
No,
being better at the work that provides for
It's-
the kids that you love the
I-
most in your life?
I think
right?
it's being a better leader. I think it's everything.
I think it's better sales, because if you have more cash flow, now you have a dilemma of time versus money. And if you get
Yeah.
to where time is more valuable than money, you're in a good place.
agreed. Yeah, Clint's awfully quiet over there.
I am awfully quiet. No, as we're talking about this, I go to the deployment side of my mind, military wise,
Sure.
because the motto, especially in the Marine Corps, is God, Core, Country, right?
Well,
Amen.
that and if they wanted you to have a wife and kids, you would have been issued one.
That's right.
Right.
Right. So I go to the extreme side of that in my head, but I kind of reverse the scenario today in the civilian world of, work versus family vacation, where the family vacation would be a deployment, right? So the way I justify that in my mind is that before every deployment, one of the greatest things that any leader in your organization would say is, you lock that shit down tight. Finances, family, the plan of what's going to happen when you're gone. You lock that shit down so that you don't have to worry about that on the way. Because if you're worried about that underway, we all fail as a team. One person's personal failure screws everything up in the way you think about certain situations. So I reverse that scenario in my head, and I know that's a little deep, and I don't mean to get there, but I still use that, is that when I go on vacation, I lock that shit down tight so that when I'm on vacation, all I'm focused on is why I'm there, right?
Yeah.
And all those things, there's emergencies, right? And you got to deal with that shit. You got to, when those things come in, you roll with it, you adapt, you overcome, you take that phone call when necessary, but you better have a damn good reason why that's necessary. That's where I go in my mind, right? That if I could only take 3 days off a year and I spend that with my family, I damn sure better have a damn good reason why I'm taking that phone call. So that's what I say.
So do you, when you say that, like, you're going to need a damn good reason because the family's going to expect that, or because you're going to expect that
Me
of the
personally.
person who's calling?
It's not fair to anybody, right?
No,
it's not
I
fair
agree.
for the
Yeah.
customer to be blowing me up on vacation. It's not fair to my family that I'm taking the phone call. It's
Yeah.
not fair to me because I need the break too, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I've been running maybe 100 plus hours a week trying to get to have this vacation. So it's not fair to me either, and that's where the realistic side comes in.
Oh, yeah.
But okay, and I agree with what you're saying. I really do. But we live as salesmen in most cases in a world of great flexibility.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, sometimes you're only working 10 hours a week.
Well,
You. wait a second. Didn't you say you're a vice president?
No, hold on. I said sometimes.
there's this
Look,
there's
two
this
fi-
officer
two
versus
fingers-
enlisted
two
argument that I want to
fingers-
bring up right now.
Two fingers coming out here. Aren't you a vice president?
Do I need to break out the knife hand?
The throat's
No,
off
look.
limits. Throats and genitals off limits, man. You can hit me on the shoulder barely. Right.
Sometimes
you know I'm a crier, right?
Sometimes you work 110-hour week trying to get stuff done, and the next week you come in, you've done so much that, man, I'm trying to recover. Right?
Exactly. Well, okay, there's where, again, that's a very valuable statement. When you're concerned about how much work you have to catch up to, look, it's easy to take a vacation when you hear crickets. We're talking about when you've made it and you're running and you can go wherever you want to go, and you're here's what you're doing, right? Guys, if this isn't popping in your mind, if the flight is under $1,000 per ticket and I got 4 family members, we're going. We're not budget buying because I can't budget because I have to. I got to schedule on Friday to leave the next Tuesday, or I got to do a Thursday and then go out on Friday because I just found out my weekend's open and I'm crushing it, but I got to get out of town.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's taking the moments to recharge your batteries.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's easier
and
when you're
spending whatever money it takes,
So-
not whatever money,
well-
but reasonable money to get out there and do that.
Sure. But that's a little bit different whenever you're the owner versus you're working
No,
for someone
hold on.
else.
No, okay, and I can go to the poorhouse quicker than you can.
No,
because you're going to
hey,
get paid.
Hold on.
Let's
and
put,
I'm not.
Let's put this in a money aspect because we all talk money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this,
Are we
especially
talking
in this
budget?
realm.
Can we have a budget
talk
conversation?
budget. So yeah, it is budget. So when you're applying for a new sales job, right, and you think, okay, I have this job today, I'm applying, I'm interviewing. One of these days, I might get that switch. But what do you always have when you switch? You have a gap in pay, right? You have a week or 2 weeks, depending on how it's structured, sometimes a month. And it takes you maybe, my experience is usually about 6 to 8 weeks to make up for that 1 week of lost payment.
Sometimes
right?
longer than that.
Sometimes longer than that, depending
Sure.
on what the pay flux is, right?
Sure.
So if it takes you that long, it's the same mentality going on to a vacation that you're going to have to make up for that week, and it takes you, it takes you weeks and weeks and weeks to make up for that. So the funny thing is about both sides is that you could have planned for it.
Yeah.
You could have planned for both, right? You knew you were interviewing. You knew you were applying.
Yeah.
Why didn't you throw?
Always about planning.
Why didn't you throw $100 aside, right? Live a little scarcely so that when you had that gap, you were covered.
Completely agree.
So why wouldn't you do that with business, right? I'm going to be gone in June.
Mhm.
Why won't I prepare for the June?
When I worked at AT&T and at a big bank,
Which one?
if you were going to take a vacation, you were essentially just giving up the ability to have like
All
a
the
good commission
revenue?
month.
Really?
Yeah, because with both those organizations, there were significant multipliers, right? So like if you hit top tier, I'm making some like serious money, but it's kind of like the car thing, right? You got to be there to make those sales because you can't. This is retail sales, not like outside business sales. But it was like, well, do I want to take a vacation or do I want to make money? Because it was such a significant chop at the knees if you took any time out.
And I know people hold positions very similar to that
Mhm.
in a lot of arenas.
Yeah, I was going to say.
In what?
A friend of mine works for a big TV station, and I hear all the time, like, the people that work there. So if you're, like, on the morning news, for instance, they, like, they're not comfortable with taking vacation because they're like, okay, so someone's going to come in and have to replace them. What if people like them better, and they do a better job?
That's insecurity.
It's terrible.
Well, but that's the whole
It's realistic.
being in front of a camera. It's
realistic,
like actors and
But,
actresses.
but I hope that I
but-
do such a good job 360 days out of the year. The 5 that I miss doesn't matter.
Well, that's because you plan. It's not
But
hope.
if
it's about
you've built a
planning.
life around 5 days off from work, Lordy,
yeah.
Lordy.
Mm.
Huh? No, I get it.
That's-
People do though.
I do. That's the world I live in.
You took off.
Oh,
about 5 days
wait a
last
second.
year.
Liar,
No.
liar,
I work 5 days a
VP's
month.
pants on fire.
Lord.
But I take calls all the fucking. I mean, the whole time there's one vacation out of the year where I shut it down.
Where's the
I don't
violin?
even take.
oh, my money's on Quint. So
Man, hit me hard there.
All right,
Uh,
so
But look, there's vacations that I understand that. Hey, look, I'm going on vacation, and I'm gonna. Don't worry about covering what I'm gonna do because I'm gonna do it all on vacation. And then there's a vacation that I take where it's like I'm shutting everything off.
You have
That's
to.
it, right?
What was your story that you said you wanted to talk? Oh, Dan, you'll know this. What was it? Do you remember? No? Okay.
past that.
So after the Galveston experience, I decided that I'm not going to do that again because it was just miserable. I couldn't really fully work. I
On
couldn't
both
really.
fronts.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
was unhappy with both sides of that equation. I was not as effective at work, but I had told myself that I was going to give myself Thursday, Friday of that week to be able to work. So I didn't shuffle any activities or behaviors or anything. And so I'm down there and I'm trying to like make some calls and follow up on some things and I'm not in my space. I'm not in my zone. I'm not doing things as I normally do. And so I decided that I'm not going to do that again. So we're going to Chicago next weekend. I talked to you guys about it. And so I'm going to be gone Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And I've already have shoved things to the side because I don't want it to be like it was last time. But if you're working for someone else and it's, well, if you're not here, you're not here. Sorry. Kind of thing. That's a lot of pressure.
Well, I disagree. There are ways to manage both of those. and like you said, it's about planning ahead of time,
Mhm.
right? If you know the revenue is going to be lost, then lose it. Just know, because if the cycle is it's lost, then you bank ahead of time, and you don't lose any stature as long as you come back into the game and there's another loan to do, and you've got
Sure.
every,
Yeah.
if you're Wells Fargo, you're ripping everybody off. But anyway, there's another guy to steal from, and this guy, it's just our cattle's always coming through the chute, right?
Here's all our passwords for everybody that uses us on a bank. Do what you will.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, speaking to that specific industry, or the other side of the equation is, I have allotted certain times where I check my email, where
Absolutely,
I check this, because you have portability with now the connectivity that we
Because
have.
one of the arguments that you have as a salesperson is like, I don't need to be in this office every day. It's 2019.
Absolutely.
Call me on the phone,
And that's
email
part of
me.
that's part of the culture.
But
right?
you
Which
eat
we
those.
talked about a couple episodes
But you
ago.
eat those words, right? You eat those words sometimes
when you're struggling.
When
Yeah.
you're struggling and you go on vacation, and they're like, "Hey, I called you, you didn't answer." So there is some give and take, right? You gotta.
Well, check your cell phone coverage wherever you
Yeah,
go,
I mean,
right?
Well,
agree.
Stay away
and
from a
that's-
blank spot. Right?
That's kind of because there's no real emergencies in what I do, right? Like no one's gonna call me and it's like a real emergency. It's
It's
okay,
a personal,
this can
like,
wait, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Your lack of planning
My
is not
CRM
an emergency
went
on my
down?
part. Yeah,
That's
exactly. Like it doesn't really happen. I forgot my password. Okay, come
Right,
on, man.
Seriously, man.
Um,
Hit the help desk.
but by that same token, because I have the smartphone and it's connected to all of my email addresses, I still see this stuff that's
Yeah.
coming in. I just don't
Sure you
necessarily
do.
act on it.
Sure.
Right. So what I've kind of done is set the expectation with my family of like, hey, look, I'm gonna have 30 minutes a day where I sit down and I check my email and
Look,
just gonna follow up on
That
stuff.
that out of office reply on an email, that automatic thing.
Oh man, I don't do that.
You don't?
No.
Do you do?
I've never done it, but I'm saying a lot of people do.
I was like, the crawfish.
I'm just saying.
Well, not me.
I don't wanna
I
do
don't.
that.
I don't
I'm
do
just
that
saying-
shit.
I've never had that.
I'm a VP. my administrative assistant.
I have honestly
The
never.
needling
have
is
for you.
so thick today.
I have
love it.
honestly. Yeah, I know.
It's always something.
I have honestly never done that, but when people do that to me,
Oh.
but I get it.
Yeah.
I understand it, and I'm like, okay. One of the things that I hate when they do that is that they just put out of office till blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, well, who the fuck do I talk to, right?
Exactly.
But
you
when
have to
but
be.
when they say I'm out of office till Monday, and they say
Contact
please
this person.
talk, please contact Mariska. Here's her number.
Yeah.
Here's her email. We're
Gotta do
good.
that.
We're good. I
Yeah,
won't
where did
bother.
Mar-
where did Mariska come from? What a
Hold on.
name!
Mariska Haggerty from Law and Order SVU.
Okay, but hold on. I was going to say, you know Mariska too, because I
Oh.
seem to get this Mariska,
Detective
Maria.
Benson.
Yeah, the M one.
But hold on. So I used to love setting the out of office when I worked for someone else, right? When I was at AT&T or at one of the banks and stuff, and it wasn't really detrimental. It hurt, but it wasn't like my business. It was their business, right? I was just kind of the intermediary.
You're the perfect employee.
I loved because it's like social media. Let me show you how awesome I am with this out of office. Now that I work for myself, I'm like, I don't want anyone to know that I'm
Agreed.
not actually
Well,
here in front of my computer.
Yeah, and the point goes back to planning, right? Planning for your vacation. If that's what you have to do, plan for that, right? You set your customers up for success
Yeah.
in your own organization.
Absolutely.
So
If
let
you're
me
giving out
throw
your
this
cell
out
phone,
here.
ooh.
If you're not working 24/7, 7 days, 52 weeks a year, whether you're working or not, then something's wrong. Because any weakness, any crack, what I'm saying is plan, schedule,
Leadership.
work it, and make sure
Yeah.
you're covered. Because the worst thing, if I lost $1 million account because I went on
No.
vacation,
Let me nail.
I'd be jumping off a bridge.
I'll nail that.
There it
I'll,
is.
I'll nail that
Yeah,
down.
Once again,
I had to throw that
Al
in.
Daniel
I had to
is
throw the
not
jump
actually
off the bridge.
recommending anybody
I'll
jump
nail,
off a bridge.
nail that down a little bit further. Is that salespeople don't usually operate in a normal operating day,
Right.
8 to
Yeah.
9,
Agreed.
or 8
Yeah.
to 5, right?
Sure.
Like that's just not the world you live in. Because if you're paying me a salary on 40 hours a week, right, and I operate 8 to 5 every day, but
You
then
should
I gotta
fold-
go,
You should fold socks.
yeah, but then I go to a networking event or a conference,
Yeah.
right, where I got to work till midnight or entertain clients. Like, where does that money come in? That's that leadership side to understand what you do. So, I mean,
I'm sleeping till 8
I
in the
think-
morning.
but I think what Doc's saying is that 365, 24/7 environment is what you operate in, and I can understand that,
But
right?
see, I'm trying so hard to go the other way, right?
to get sales within an operating environment.
Well, just to not let my business and client account stuff be the thing that I'm thinking about at 9:30 at night. Like I want to limit that to certain.
I'd be okay with that if
Okay,
you.
snowflake.
Hey, I mean, call me a snowflake
hey,
if you
look,
want, but I mean, here's the deal. Why does it have to be in a true emergency? Why do you have to contact me right now?
So
Because they did.
so here's what I
Uh,
will.
And you
see,
handle. What do you
you're
put
enabling.
people off? You say, I'm not answering this
Well,
hold on.
because it's too late at night.
As salespeople, one of the biggest attractants for me is to be able to take my kids to school one day because I
Yeah.
don't have to be at an office by a certain time. But know that I'm going to miss a football game because I got to go
Yeah.
handle this thing, right? So there's give and take on both parts,
Mhm.
right? So if that give and take is always there and understood by employer employee, right? There's times on vacation that you're going to have to take some calls, right? And
Let it go to voicemail and decide if you're going to contact me.
but you can do
There you
that.
go.
You
Hey, that's an
can.
option. That's
That
an
is-
option.
absolutely it is.
Look, all these are options, right? You could take 0 phone calls.
But if
But if you're gonna bitch that you lost sales because you were on vacation at the end of your vacation because you didn't take that phone call, you didn't plan properly, you didn't set
Agreed.
it up right.
if you don't decide that you will buy a ticket to come back home that day if the right emergency occurs, then you're not in the game.
I disagree.
All right.
I'm gonna tell you right now. You can ask my family. I've been in South Carolina and Charleston before, and got so far into a deal where I had to entertain people that they came and visited me on vacation, and I never saw them for 3 days. They flew back home without ever seeing me because I felt that did right, wrong, and different.
Sure.
Right,
Yeah,
wrong,
I'm
and
not,
different.
I'm not trying to call anybody wrong. I'm
right.
just saying,
I'm not calling you wrong.
What
yeah.
I felt was that the future of my family and the future of my finances relied heavily on me being there, and I chose that over. I'm not saying that's right. I could have done, knowing what I know now, I could have done 100 things different.
Sure.
And one of the things that I could have done different,
And I think
is,
that's the thing that we're leading to.
one of the things that I could have done different was upfront negotiations, making sure that they understood that I had family. Because if they'd have known I had family there, they wouldn't have done those meetings at 8 o'clock at
Agreed.
night.
Most of it's
right?
our doing.
It is.
Exactly. That's the thing that I'm going
is
to.
very good.
Okay,
That
so-
is
But
very good.
but at the end of the day, if
Well, hold on, real quick. I think this also comes down to what's the size of your market, right? Because there's not that many surgeons in town, so
no,
you
but
can't.
that's not all that I do.
No, I know
and
that.
not
I
all
know,
that
but hold on,
respond to.
right? We're trying to.
Yeah, I agree.
Whereas, potentially
Yeah.
any business with at least one
Sure.
salesperson.
Let's go back to my buddy Brian that called in like 10 episodes ago that is in a saturated market that
Yeah.
may have one customer every 6 months.
Yeah,
When he calls and wants to go to dinner, and that might be what you work for the whole time,
absolutely.
but you had a football game that night with your kid, what do you do?
And
what do you do, right?
I think that comes down to your personal level of urgency, right? I think it also comes down to where you sit on this table,
Sure.
right? I mean, I think that
The
an
personality-wise?
handles,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think that has a huge impact on it. And I also think it urgency, personality, and then how good are you at saying, okay, I'm fine with this.
But
If you
what-
need to talk to me
So-
at 8:30 at night, come on, man.
So I was going to say, so John flips his scheduler because it's coming through. He's like, no, not scheduled, not answered.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there are the list of people that
Crazy.
I will
I could never be that.
the list of
No, he
people
does
that I will
'cause he does that
randomly.
to me.
Yeah, I mean, Clint and I talk.
Which means you
all
do
the
it to
time.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Oh, you bastard.
If
You've
I'm-
never done it
hold
to
on.
me.
If I'm
Thank you,
working on
John.
something and we don't have an appointment,
Yep.
it's a choice to answer that phone call.
Absolutely.
You don't answer my calls?
No, dude, John's
Oh,
John's-
shit.
John's answered my call, and I've said, "Hey, John, you got a few minutes?" He said, "I've got 2, but I have a phone call at 10. It's 9:58." And I
Yeah.
say, "Okay."
I'm
I set
bleeding out over
expectations.
here, bro.
You're not calling me for bleeding out.
I need a hand on this
He's so
leader.
crazy.
Right? I'm making some assumptions about like, hey, Clint calls me a lot. It might be about this thing. It might be about something else, but it's probably not an emergency. I can call him back in a minute. I am focused on this thing that I'm trying to work on right now.
Oh.
And I know when you don't
Exactly.
answer, you have a
Yeah.
legitimate reason.
Because we have
Exactly.
this level of thing.
But
right?
that's what we're trying to get with our customers.
Well, so I think that part of that is I don't give my clients my cell phone number. You get the office number,
Yeah.
and that is routed
I'm
through.
gonna totally disagree with you there.
I would
Hey,
say my
well,
surgeons
hold on.
have my
Here's the
number.
deal.
I'm not saying
It's-
you're wrong. I'm just disagreeing.
I have hundreds of thousands of businesses that I can work with. you don't have hundreds of thousands of surgeons, and you don't have hundreds of thousands of doctors'
I
offices.
literally get told weekly, "Thank you so much for responding."
And I'm gonna respond, but you don't get to call me at 9 o'clock at night. I'm not answering that phone call.
But I like where your attitude's at.
Dude, I love it. I
you don't
do
get to
love
call
it.
me.
I do. I'm in, dude. I'm.
Well, but
I
here's the
just
deal.
can't be that guy.
I don't work in y'all's industry to where you
But
know.
I couldn't be you if I. But I can appreciate where you're coming from because I'm like, man,
if you
that's the
sit down,
best.
if
That's
you sit
the
down and,
best.
and you take a hard look, right, if we put you in my world, right, consulting, right, there's not, you know,
Agree.
I mean, it's different with healthcare and it's different with construction. If you have guys out there on a site and something happens and like you're their
Dude,
contact,
if somebody calls me from construction at 9 o'clock at night, I'm answering because something went
exactly
crazily wrong.
that doesn't happen in my world, right?
Right, so
If-
it is predicated on your business.
Exactly, right. If you
Yeah.
call me at night, I can't even. I
I'm
can't
in the
even,
wrong business.
I can't even
I say
imagine.
that all the
Well,
time.
man, come on.
It's all I know, though.
No,
So-
you make
no, I get it.
exponentially more than
no,
I do.
But no, that has nothing to do with anything.
well.
'Cause
I mean,
it-
on some level,
I
it
told
does.
you. No, I told you. Eventually, it becomes time versus money, right?
True. Yeah.
Eventually, if life goes the way it should,
How many plane tickets have you purchased and not used?
too many. You know what sucks? If you have a ticket, like a fully refundable ticket on an American, I'll call them out, those bitches. After a year, they don't have to honor that. How the hell does that happen? $800. That's the last one I can recall. Because
It really
now
did
I
happen.
know
Yeah, it did happen.
you don't have your credit on there anymore. Bitches.
Hashtag triggered.
It's I have wait a second. I have gift cards that are 15 years old, and I look them up occasionally,
yeah.
and they're still good. I have a gift card from a t-ball team. I was the coach, and my son's in college now, right? And it's still good.
Where
And
is it?
it's
Do
at a
we need to
restaurant.
go there tonight? Where
Yeah,
is it?
it's at the whole.
How did we go from American to gift cards? That's a big.
Some-
That's a
You
big.
brought
leap.
it up, man.
Gift cards, not a good idea with Christmas. coming up.
California kid.
Yes,
Nah,
gift cards all
yeah.
over his desk.
Anyway,
So funny.
long story short.
But yeah, so that boundary is important to me, right? Because part of the reason why I started doing it was because it made me very uncomfortable, right? It used to be I would answer any phone call, even numbers I didn't know, and especially if it was a friend. If you called me and we were buddies and you called me, oh yeah, man, what's going on? And then I realized how much that happens and how much it takes me out of my whatever work I'm doing, whether it's like prospecting or whether it's working on my business or something else. And then, okay, cool, I'm not going to answer these calls. And for the first 3 weeks, it was super uncomfortable. Like they might have a referral. Oh, I should really answer this.
Gosh,
you
I'd
know?
hate for him to give it to you tomorrow.
Exactly, right? Pretty much. And but
Good point.
that's the easy switch to flip when you're a salesperson, right? If you're down, I guess at that lower level of like Maslow's hierarchy of like, oh man, I better answer this call. They might need something right now, and if I don't talk to them right now, they're going to tell me no in 30 minutes whenever I call them back or whatever. But now it's just second nature. So yeah,
So I called you before the podcast, right?
I answer the phone.
I know. I'm like now I'm.
We have an appointment.
Hold on, wait a second. I want to say thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Exactly.
This is
Shit, man.
all my phone calls should run, right? I answer and you say thank you for answering, and I say you're welcome. What's up?
Look, you just
How
own
much
me.
time do you have?
I am never calling you again, you bitch. Seriously.
That's just rude.
Man, the difference between the D and the I is so apparent right now because Al's got his feelings hurt and Clint is like, I could give a shit less.
No, I know how my feelings are.
Answer,
I'm tongue in cheeking this because
I know.
actually you win.
What does that mean?
You
What
actually
do you mean I win?
What
My
does
I
that
can't
mean,
do what you
chicken?
do, but that wins. If you can set a schedule where people come to you,
Yeah, my thought
welcome
is,
to Donald Trump win.
Hold on.
my
no.
thought is you answer or you don't, and if you don't, you take a chance on losing. my
Absolutely,
business.
right? I
And I
gamble
will
with that.
never. And I gamble my ass off.
I'm not
I don't
saying
take
that's
the chance.
right.
I take
Don't-
the phone call.
Don't quote me on that. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's the way I feel. Right? You don't answer, and I think, okay, well, I need coverage. I need to call somebody else right now because everything in my world, when I'm reaching
But
out,
The other thing to
is an
consider
emergency.
is how Clint's business and y'all's business is very relationship driven, right? You get a stable full of people that are willing to work with you and refer you. Yeah, you're gonna. I mean, if I had 5 people that were making up all of my business and I could lose it because it was very, very poachable and very competitive, yeah, I'm gonna answer those phone calls. But I don't work that way.
You're still relationship based.
No,
But-
for sure, right? I got to build a ton of trust because remember, I don't even have like a thing that I can sell. Like it's just my knowledge and my in my experience, right?
you're
So
completely
But
right.
I gotta work harder on trusting.
I also look at the fact of like when I answer a phone call on vacation, especially like a family vacation, how hard is it to answer the phone call? Like, what am I really missing out on? Like, I weigh that option, right?
Isn't that a slippery slope though?
It could be, but you got to be.
I
You got to
agree.
be.
It's just 10 minutes.
You got to be
It's
smart
just
enough.
15
Yeah,
minutes.
but hold on, you got to be smart enough to realize
But you
what
look
you're
down
getting yourself
and
into.
you've got a list of who
Like,
you should
For
respond
example,
to.
if I'm on the sandcastle in let's say Galveston,
or your head sticking
sorry.
out of the sand
If-
because your kids have buried you and you can barely
if-
breathe. Right?
Sorry, I said that completely wrong. If I'm on a beach building a sandcastle with my
Okay.
kids, like this is going to take a couple hours, and I'm in there, and you call me, and I'm already overseeing the operations of building the sandcastle anyway. Like it's not going to hurt for me, but know that I'm going to set you up on that call to say, hey man, I'm on the beach. This may be a little unorthodox, but
Yeah.
I'm building a sandcastle with my kids. I got a couple minutes. Shoot, what's going on, man? What
Yeah.
can I help you with?
There you go.
And your kids are in the background screaming and running around, and you set that up, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with taking that phone call, in my opinion, right?
So
I'm going to take that phone call all day long, but I'm going to set it up to where you know that.
But don't you set then kind of a precedent that, oh man, Clint's always going to answer the phone?
That's okay, man. Because
What's wrong
look,
with that precedent?
I'm not saying there is anything wrong. I just think
Because,
that
hey,
I don't want
when
that
I-
with
when-
my
Because
phone.
the guy says,
No, hold
you
on.
know, because
Calling
of that, I'm
Of
doing
all
2
things-
million with you next year because I
Guys,
just love.
of all things that
Nanette is giving me the hard look over here. It's
Well,
making me
because-
uncomfortable.
we talk about setting upfront expectations all the time,
of
right?
course, yeah.
So
Yeah.
one of the things that I always tell the people that I sell to is, guys, call me anytime. I may not always answer, but
I
I
say
will
the same
always
thing.
get
I've
back
set
to
an
you.
I say the
expectation.
So
same thing.
what I'm saying is that when you send them to voicemail on vacation and you get a voicemail and an hour later you call them back, you already set that up front. So just,
I
like,
do exactly
like,
what you're saying.
Don't
Because
kill
I'm
it.
in hospitals where it's leaded.
Yeah.
I don't get reception.
Like
I'm
the-
like, hey, I'm in and out.
Yeah. Don't.
Leave a message. Don't be afraid to call back. I get to my.
I feel like
voicemail.
we're on the teacup at Six Flags. We're still going around the
Well,
same thing.
I think it's about
And-
your boundaries. right?
Well,
And I
but
think this is a good topic.
You
but
do what?
ultimately, I think that it's what we initially stated. It's about leadership. It's about planning. It's about relationship and setting parameters of
Oh.
what you're going to do. I think it's so silly to act like I think we all four want to 100% take care of, and we suggest you take care of your client
Absolutely, yeah.
and figure out how to do that properly.
Yeah.
But
Don't leave anybody in the gulch. Don't set anyone up for
Here's
failure.
the deal.
But enjoy your time.
You are going to live and die under your own sword. You answer the phone call, that's your own prerogative to do,
Yeah.
right? If you don't answer it, that's still your own, right?
Yeah.
You as a person, as a salesperson, no matter what personality you do, you are going to live and die under that sword.
Answer the call.
Answer it, don't answer it, that's up to you. But know that there's consequences to both, right? And you got to live with one or the other.
And I agree with you. Tell them where you're at.
Yep.
Let them know you're on vacation.
Yeah.
At that point, I don't say you front run. I don't front run vacations, but
Yeah.
I don't have a problem saying,
Because-
"Hey, I'm having
Everyone
dinner.
should
Let me
take a
step out and
vacation.
talk to you," because it also tells you where
I
my
was gonna
time
say.
frame is, right?
Dude, because
out of respect.
I've had people. I've answered a phone call during a dinner with another customer, and I've answered the phone call like, "Hey, man, you called me twice. It must be really important."
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm
That's-
actually I stepped out from a dinner with a customer. What's going on, man?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh shit, you're at a dinner with a customer? No,
It
go
is
get
the
back
way.
in there.
Yeah,
I'm like,
run
hey,
back
dude,
in.
I've already stepped out. I got a couple
Yeah.
minutes. Shoot,
Mhm.
right?
I
What
completely
what
run
kind
that
of
route.
that's a huge level of respect that I'm gaining, right? But I'm also serious about why I'm taking that phone call.
Yeah.
But I know the consequences of both, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's the thing, is I know the consequences that I just stepped out on a customer to take a phone call with a customer. I know the consequences of both.
But you're kind of gambling on the fact that they're going to love that
Okay.
you're that customer focused.
That's my gamble.
Gamble?
Yeah, it's a gamble.
But
What do you
look,
mean? That they don't like the fact that you stepped
If those
out?
people don't
What's
like
the
that,
gamble?
get rid of them.
yeah, I kind of
Oh,
agree with that.
you left your family
Cut
or
'em.
you left a business deal to talk to me?
Cut them.
I'm like,
Bye.
But
unless
it's
you
still a
got a lot of
decision.
cash we're talking about.
But
you
I'm
can go
I'm
F
okay with
yourself.
that. See, that's where I go back to. It's very personal, right? It's very you, because if they said that to me, like, I can't believe you're with another customer, you're not valued anyway. Get out of here. I'm gonna go focus on this customer. But that's me,
You-
right? That's
you
my
know,
mentality.
in my business though, that's a big sticking point.
It
Right?
could be.
What do
Yeah,
you mean?
these
That you're
big
with somebody
egos
else.
running around. Yeah, exactly. It's almost like you're having sex.
But that's
with,
not
like,
on you. That's not on us.
I
That's
agree,
on
but
them.
you know that I'm telling the truth
Yeah,
when I
but
say that.
It
Because
can
if they don't
be-
like the other guy or
It can be
that's
the
why,
other-
That's why I say you have to weigh your options personally.
Agreed.
In every situation, you have to weigh because you may piss somebody off to gain one.
You're exactly. We're in a game and a business that every word counts, right? Everything we do, it's calculated, or it should be.
Well, words
Hold
are.
on. You guys cutting the net off a moment
No,
ago.
I'm totally fine. Go ahead.
Oh.
You're so
You sure?
Oh,
I love you.
words
John.
are bullets. Words are bullets.
Hold
You
on.
send
I
them
had an
down
English
range,
teacher.
you can't get them back.
Okay, and I had an English teacher
Oh,
said,
I totally think
you know,
that
words are like knives to be used against your enemies.
They're nuclear.
That's what I'm
Words are
saying.
nuclear.
They're knives to be
Once-
used against your enemies.
Once they come out of the end of the barrel, there's no getting them back.
Yes.
But doesn't that, right? So if you're a salesperson and you're listening to this and you're hearing us talk about how important your words are and stuff, doesn't that
Quiet. That's what it means.
No,
Oh.
it makes you calculated because you're going to screw up, right?
hopefully
You're going
right?
to shoot the wrong target.
Oh yeah.
But you
No,
guys are
it's
kind of making it sound like you can't mess up too many times.
No,
whereas
no,
I go
no.
the
What
other
I'm
way.
saying is
You
that
I
learn
when
don't
fail
think
a
you
lot.
can, or you're gonna
Well,
not
that's
reach the
true.
rewards that the top guys
John,
get.
that's a very true statement. Even to your ability, like you screw up so many times that it is what it is.
Guess what? The world doesn't give a shit. You get to get food stamps. You get to struggle through your bills. Get
That's
better
hard
at
truth.
what you do.
I'm with you.
Lordy.
But I will
It's
tell
not
you,
a hard
It's
what
equation.
I'm not saying is don't be scared to take chances because I think that's the line that you're going down, right? It's like,
Yeah.
Don't be scared to take chances. Just weigh your options, weigh your risks, right? So if you're doing something outside of the bubble of something you normally do, if you're looking at a guy across the table and like, man, you know what? I really need to say this. I need to get this out there. Weigh the options, right? Practice it in the mirror. Practice it with a coach, right? You got to do those things.
Decide
Otherwise,
if you're running with scissors, right?
Absolutely.
If you're doubling down on a 2 against a 10, you're an idiot, right? Just come to Vegas with me.
depends on what the dealer has.
I said a 10 on the dealer, and I got a
Oh, I
2
got you, I got
showing,
you.
right? I got 12, and dealer's got 10. I'm doubling down.
So
Are you a
I don't
crazy
think
friend? Yeah, come
he
on.
thinks you're an idiot. I don't think you're an idiot. I think you're learning, and you have to learn. Everyone
Oh,
has to go
agreed.
through screw
Agreed.
ups.
But you can
to
only
get
learn
better.
so many times.
But,
But
yeah,
hold on though,
don't
right?
quit saying you're learning when you've done it 10 times the wrong way.
When you're putting yourself in a position to where every conversation is so precious that you can't mess up.
Precious.
Yeah,
Love
right?
it. Love it. Good
That's the
word.
thing, right?
That's the
If-
word of the day. Precious.
Here's the deal. If I need one deal to close and I have 3 in my pipeline, there's a lot of weight on all those 3 deals for me to get to a yes. Whereas if I have 40 and I only got to close 1, okay, awesome. Tell me no. Right?
But
So-
that's situational. right?
Well, true, but like when you guys are talking about like, hey, you can only mess up so many times and your words are
no.
accuracy and
If
everything
you
else,
keep
it's-
repeating the same mistake
Mhm.
so many times
Okay.
that you haven't
It is
listened
learning,
to your own,
right?
like,
we talk about this all the time, and it's refining your process,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
You failed once. Take the failure.
Mhm.
No problem with the failure. You got the no. You did something wrong. Take the no. Take the failure. Take everything that you thought you did wrong or have feedback on what you did. That's even better. You take that, and now you build a second process that's even better. So when you go into that same situation again, you don't do the same thing. What Doc is
Okay.
talking about, when you repeat that cycle,
But if you fail a handful of times, but every time it's less like the cuts less deep, that's okay too, right? Because
Yeah, step
right.
back.
No,
But
that's
if,
Analyze.
if this is a reoccurring nightmare, or you're not realizing why, then stop that madness, right?
Yeah.
Does that
No,
make sense?
absolutely.
I mean, it's a learning process, so you're not going to fail once and get it
mean,
right the second time
it's
necessarily.
It's the martial arts, it's the marksman conversation, right?
Absolutely.
Like you're going to do it 100 times, you got to be okay with 99 are going to be wrong. And then you do it 100 more times and 98 are going to be wrong.
You-
Talk
True,
about
that's-
talk about marksman, man. When you're shooting right and you shoot way right, you make big adjustments first.
Yeah.
Big adjustments, big bold adjustments, and you live to it. Now you're shooting left, right? You shot way right, now you're shooting left, but you're not so far left. You're just a little bit left. Right
Mhm.
now you hone it in. Now you're on target. Now you hone that in even further to where you're shooting bullseyes. Right? That's the marksmanship strategy.
Great
and I'm
analogy.
okay with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you shoot from the hip, you shoot right, and you think, oh man, that did not work. Let's go the other way. Now I'm just a little bit left of center. And you hone that in. But that's what you're doing. You're not doing this. You're not shooting right 20 times in a row
Beautiful.
and hitting
Beautiful
the
analogy.
same
Yeah.
fucking thing.
No, yeah, I'm not saying you
And-
keep making the same mistakes. I'm just saying that if you can't take a no, either psychologically you just can't take another one, or the
Get out of
market is
this
super
business
small or
and-
something. I mean, true, there is something to be said for that, but that's gonna make it really hard for you to go and be okay not being perfect.
Well, I think that's where the compassion, empathy side comes in to say, I'm not doing something right. I waved the little white flag, and that's why these conversations that we're having here in these podcasts,
True.
and
No,
and training and even formal sales training or just picking up your phone and listening to podcasts, they're so important because you're hearing
Read a
different
book.
ideas.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Get
Yeah,
it from
read a
other
book.
areas. We're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
How-
not
how
the
2019
be all end all one stop.
How
Guys.
2019 of me not to even mention a book, but yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Read a fucking book.
but a couple of weeks ago we talked about cultures and things like that, and a lot of sales cultures at companies is very cutthroat. It's I got here on my own, you get here on your own, or see ya kind of thing. So if you don't have that in your company, like, you can go find it. And now with social media, it is easier than ever to like go get a community and go find people who are thinking the same way you are, and go get improvement outside of your workplace. But
Sure.
you got to go find it someplace.
And then that brings up another question. So it boils down to, you have all these resources out there for you guys. There's not, there's us. I said, if you're listening, and
Thank you.
thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for your service to us. Not taking away from any veteran that's ever been out there, but our listeners out there, we do appreciate you guys tuning in regularly. But we're not the only. Test us, right? Go cross-reference what we're talking about with what other people are saying. I think that's the only wise thing to do.
And go try it.
Exactly. And you're gonna find a lot of similar patterns going on here, right?
Mm-hmm.
We invented us, but we didn't invent the wheel.
Well,
right?
I always like it when I'm describing what we talk about on here. I'm like, you'd find it really interesting, because we're talking about this certain situation. It's from 4 different walks of life, man, different personalities, and they'll always say, "Oh, you should listen to so and so because they talk about this too." I'm like, "Okay, cool," and I click play, and I'm like, "Yeah, cool." Learn
it's one personality.
Yeah,
right. Using one voice.
Right. And I'll listen to it, and I'm like, man, that's a really good thought. Now I can punch holes in that, and I can punch holes in that, but that doesn't make it wrong, right? It's just a different way of thinking.
Absolutely.
And even though that I think that I know everything, the fact is I just don't.
Well,
and I learn, and the only way that I get better and better and better is to go out and get further, so far away from my own personality. That's the way I'm really figuring out that I'm learning. Right?
Well,
That's where this started.
Well, and
Sure.
to your analogy of shooting a gun, there are people that are going to walk up to that bullseye and hit it. First time. They're just going to do it.
If you
They're
walk
gonna-
up to it, you just put
Well,
your
not-
gun on it and like pull the trigger.
thing
Of
is-
course-
Okay, so aim.
Of course you hit it.
But my point is, okay,
The
so
closer
aiming.
to the target, the better.
Alright, so aim.
chances I'm going to hit it.
Let her talk.
Just saying.
Let her
That's
talk.
me.
Come on, man.
Alright,
Sorry.
Okay,
my bad.
but the person that's gone to right or to left eventually can still hit that. So it
Absolutely.
is just a matter of
Well,
practice and
And
being
you're right,
mindful
because
of your
it can go the other way, right?
right.
And I think that I'm probably one of those guys that came up and hit the bullseye on the first shot, and then the second shot was a little off, and the third shot was way left, and it was
Yeah.
like, oh shit, buddy. But you started changing the target on me. You started changing the windage on me. You moved it further
So it's
down
focus.
range,
It's just
right?
focus.
It's like, okay,
Planning.
I was good at 300 yards and with the perfectly zeroed gun, but now you moved it to 800 yards and you got wind.
Right. So
That's not
stuff
the same
happens.
playing field. So now I've got to adapt. I got to
Exactly.
overcome, and I got to adjust,
Thank
right?
you.
And how I do all that is very personal. It's all Doc does it a different way than Nan and John and myself do it. We go find different things to hone in our education to get us back to center, to get us back to bullseye, right? So it's very, this whole topic, right, as we go into the throwdown, it's very personal.
All right. So it
Just
is
get
time for the
close to
throwdown.
the target, Ben.
What are we throwing down on? Boundaries or how you improve?
Balance.
No,
Balance between,
Okay.
Just whatever you want to share.
not jumping at every, not being the trained, lapdog that jumps at every tree.
Okay.
Clint?
All right.
Go ahead, Clint.
So throwdown, right? So one of the things that we talked about right off the bat was vacation wise, and how do you separate personal and business life, and do you need to, right? In your world, and I say your world because I really mean that. In your world, can you handle separation? Do you need separation, or can you handle both and intermingle them? That's on you. I will tell you that it is on you. If you see your family getting so stressed out every time you take a phone call, then you need to adjust. If you see your business fail because you don't answer the phone calls on personal time, you need to adjust, right? If you want to be successful. But that is on you, right? Every personality up here, there is no set way, right? You're a high D, you can do that. You can intermingle the both, or you're a high I and you can be social. Look, guys, this is all on you. As you're listening to this, think about who you are, think about the failures that you've had, adjust, score it to the middle, and keep track of what got you there and keep doing that. When you're outside of that, when you're hitting way left, way right, way high, hitting dirt at the bottom, you need to adjust from that, right? And keep track of all the hits and the misses. And you've got to come back to bullseye.
Told me there was software that did that. Al, with an I?
I completely agree with everything that Clint just said. And all I have to say is work so hard that time is your most valuable asset versus money. That's huge.
Yeah, that's pretty significant. I don't want to follow that, but go ahead, Nanette.
Why don't you say that one more time?
In a voice that sounds like Nanette's.
Go ahead. Say what you said one more time.
Just kidding. Go ahead, man.
No? Why are we not listening to you? Really shocking. Okay, so I just want to say, how are you gaining a new strength? I think it's really important to think about something new, be it monthly, weekly, daily. I think weekly is probably really smart. You know, find a mentor, find a podcast, hopefully the DISC Sales Throwdown podcast. Find something to improve on yourself. And I'm going to leave it at that. I just think, you know, even if it's just, I'm going to be kind to someone today. I'm going to say this. No one, y'all close your ears. But, you know, I'm not going to cuss this week. I'm just not going to do it. It's just not going to make my life better. Think of something to improve on. Gain a strength. Constantly be thinking, what am I going to get stronger in my life?
Are you fucking kidding me? I can't cuss on.
She said she was, not you are.
It's going to be hard for you. But.
So for me as a C, this comes back to, I guess, real C-ness here, right? I set boundaries and set prioritizations. And as I talked about, the Galveston trip was not a great example of that, but, you know, you learn and then you kind of move forward. But, you know, you kind of coach people about how accessible you are, right? If you're giving out your cell phone number and you're being super chummy and stuff like that, then it kind of leads to a paradigm to where they can reach out to you all the time. I don't really do that with my clients, right? I'm here for a reason. You know the game. You know what we're doing, and then at the end of it, you know, I got to go do all the other stuff that I want to do. So, but once again, as we talked about, that depends upon your market, depends upon how hungry you are, right?
And your personality.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it could be argued that I'm a little too complacent, you know, but I think that there's a shift in how our business
work your
works.
ass off, right?
Well, thank you.
It's not that.
I am worried that you're painting a picture that's not true. You are super reliable.
Exactly. I don't want people thinking
I know,
that
that
you're a
worries me
dick
too.
or something like
No,
that.
he's-
Because
Yeah.
you're not.
amazing.
That's why I'm
Well,
like,
one
I'm
of the-
glad it works for you.
Out of the throwdown to comment on this, what I think is that we all have a little bit different opinion on what we can give and receive at the same time, right? So one of the things that on the opposite end of the spectrum for me is that you as a C, John, is you set parameters around what you're doing, and I kind of shoot from the hip and adjust. We both adjust, right? That's opposite ends, right? So don't be afraid to listen to all four.
Oh, absolutely.
And take nuggets
because
from
we all
each.
deliver. We're not fucking around here. We
Yeah.
deliver in the industries that we do business in.
The
And
thing to
John
remember though
doesn't.
is I just set expectations.
Oh, yeah.
Of like, hey, look,
Agreed.
if you need me for whatever reason, I'm available via email, right? And if I don't get back to you within like 4 hours, like something drastically has gone wrong, right? So I set those expectations.
Sure.
I
Should
just
they be looking for a bridge?
no bridge talk this
No.
conversation, or no more
No,
anyway.
we're so sorry.
So, but yeah, I make myself available. I help out my clients. I just don't make myself available all the time because, especially in my world, there's not really an 8:45 at night emergency. But that's different for you guys, right?
My
So
CRM.
exactly, yeah. If it's melting, something is drastically wrong. So, but yeah, you know, I'm in a lucky spot. I think
You are.
is kind of what this thing is boiled down
But you
to.
built that lucky spot for yourself, though. And
Yeah.
other people's guys out there, you can do the same. So listen to what John has to say.
Yeah, I mean,
Because people want that.
I'm in.
Hell,
this,
I want that.
I mean, I couldn't imagine being in a happier spot.
Oh, good.
Right? You know,
Yeah.
because of all the other stuff I've done, and especially whenever I was working with you, like your big role was like you answer the phone, right? Always. And now being where I am, I'm like, you know, I don't have to be as available. So I really like the spot that I'm in.
I quit.
Awesome.
Damn it,
All right.
John. Now we got we got a problem now.
If you if you are struggling, you know someone else, please follow us on social media. Everything is at Sales Throwdown. Hit subscribe in your podcast player or on YouTube if you're watching us. And if you are not sure who you align with the most, or maybe you're in the middle, which commonly happens, reach out to us. Assessment at salesthrowdown.com, and we'll get you hooked up with one. Thanks,
And
everybody.
If,
Oh,
no, can I just say
of course.
that if you're looking for a Christmas present for a hard-to-buy person, I think that would be a fantastic gift.
Okay.
Oh, that's
wow.
great.
Wow.
Great
I
little
did.
throwdown
I
there.
really
Yeah,
did.
love it.
I think it'd be great.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Have a great night.